Okay, I thought this was pretty interesting. Reading now from the Daily Wire, it says the Women's Liberation Front, WOLF, or WOLF, I suppose, for short, a group that views itself as a radical feminist organization, wants to hold an event at the Seattle Public Library, but the library is considering the complaints of another group that calls WOLF a hate group. And that group is not some kind of Christian group or right-wing group, but the Gender Justice League, which My Northwest host Jason Rantz terms a far-left LGBT group. They're upset because Wolf's event, titled Fighting the New Misogyny, a feminist critique of gender identity, intends to offer, quote, a critical analysis of gender identity. Rantz notes that Wolf dislikes instances where biological women are disadvantaged by trans women, thus the Gender Justice League. So we've got the Women's Liberation Front versus the Gender Justice League. Can we stop for a minute and focus on Gender Justice League? Quite a name for an organization. Imagine unironically putting Justice League in the name of your organization. Thus, the Gender Justice League ranted, the end result of a hate group using the library as a venue to critique the existence of a minority group creates a hostile environment and is unacceptable. The Gender Justice League wrote, we recently found out that an anti-trans organization has booked an event at the Seattle Public Library with the express purpose of arguing to take away legal rights for trans people. The library has put out an immediate response to continue to look at their options of the situation. And then the Gender Justice League added a legal threat as well. And so anyway, you get the idea. They're trying to shut down this event. And so what you see here is the burgeoning civil war on the left between what I guess we now would call radical feminists and the people who are proponents of the gender ideology and gender identity. But think about what's happened here, where now it is you're a radical feminist if you simply take the position that only human beings with female reproductive organs are in fact women. That is now a radical feminist position to take. But these are, and I'm certainly no defender of feminism by any stretch of the imagination. But these feminists, and I have no doubt that they are radical in other areas. If we started talking about abortion, I'm sure that their true radical nature would come to the forefront. But what they're saying about the trans stuff is not at all radical. That's just science. But also, what they realize, that this group of feminists, and I think it's a relatively small group within the larger feminism, but what they're doing is they're trying to preserve and protect the gains of feminism over the last several decades. Many of those gains I'm not a fan of, and I would like to see them lose those gains, such as the quote gain of being able to kill children. But they do realize that what's happening with the gender identity stuff, gender ideology, is that all of that now is threatened. Because what feminists have been doing, it's all about drawing this distinction between men and women. It's about painting, women as victims. It's about creating this tension, this competitiveness between men and women. Presenting women as a group that has to struggle against this other group of men, the patriarchy and everything. In order for any of that to work and make sense, we need to know what women are. And it needs to be the case that only women can be women, because if men can now be women, then everything feminists have been doing is blown to smithereens. So you've got these two groups now destroying each other. And it's a weird situation for someone like myself or anybody on the right, because on one hand, I think radical feminists are, what they stand for is vile and evil, destructive. These are often just I don't think there's any word for it, but bloodthirsty people. When you look at their approach to their utter disregard for the unborn and their support for killing babies at any stage of development for any reason. It's vile, violent, bloodthirsty, brutal, barbaric. So on one hand, there's that. On the other hand, when it comes to the gender stuff, they're absolutely right. So I don't know. I don't know who to root for. Thank you for tuning into the Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative media outlets in the entire country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and a subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.